Hello and welcome to our webinar, introducing TakeON. It's a game changer. My name is Julian Andrews and I'm your MC. I'd like to introduce our presenters, Paul Stewart and Kate Billing.
Hi everyone.
Hey team, great to have you join us today.
Paul is the co-founder of TakeON and Kate is co-founder of Blacksmith, one of the TakeON business partners. Paul, over to you.
Thanks Julian, and it's a pleasure to be with everyone today. Just very quickly, let's talk about what we're going to cover today, the TakeON agenda. Firstly, what is it? Why is it a game changer? When is it used? What is the process? And finally, what is the Internet? So let's start with what is it, and very quickly look at the origins of TakeON. And the key point here is that behind TakeON are some really strong foundations. Collectively as a group, we've built up a lot of experience in developing really successful approaches to culture change, leadership, and organisational development. As a group, we're really passionate about creating better and more effective workplaces. And the overriding objective that we all have is that as much as possible, we want to equip organisations and their leaders to do as much of this work for themselves. You can see here that we've worked with a wide range of organisations in many sectors across many parts of the world, including Europe, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. And here you can see that the business results are very positive as well. This is a specific example where the TakeON approach was used to help drive full transformation within a bank of about 5,000 employees. And it's had a big impact on a whole range of measures. But there's a key insight in this chart around the approach, and that is the top line, the 7,000 improvements made by functional teams. You see, TakeON really empowers leaders and teams to improve the business by consistently and regularly working on their practices and behaviours. So taking all that experience, we've codified it into a model where a client organisation can work with an accredited business partner, such as Kate from Blacksmith, and we deliver the content through a digital platform. That's what we call the Internet, and we'll talk about that later. So finally, again, just that key principle about equipping leaders within the organisations with the capability to do more of the change and development for themselves. So, why is it a game changer? And it has been described as such by a number of people. So Kate, you're working really closely with a whole range of clients implementing TakeON and supporting them through the process. So how about we get a bit of your perspective?
Absolutely, Paul. And hello again, everyone. At Blacksmith, look, the way we talk about TakeON is really simple. TakeON is a program for improving business performance that gets people working together on what matters most. Developing your leaders whilst addressing specific business issues is what TakeON's all about. It provides leaders with all the content, processes and support that allows them to learn from each other and develop and engage their teams around current business challenges. At Blacksmith, we've been working with TakeON for over 3 years now, and it really is a game changer. Here's how. Firstly, it connects people in strategy. Not only does TakeON lift engagement, but it aligns the commitment of your people with business goals and operational practices. Secondly, we believe it's a game changer because it makes better leaders. With TakeON, development of managers happens incrementally and in the context of application to current business challenges and their daily on-the-job experience. The learning doesn't stay in the workshop, it's directly applied to benefit the business. And thirdly, TakeON's a game changer because it builds truly collaborative cultures. What we see is that by embedding the principles of transformational change, involving people throughout the program and focusing on what's working, it really changes behaviour.
Okay, people, it's me again. Time for the first poll. Right, so, guys, what do you think would be a good return on investment for a business to achieve using an approach like this? So, would 10% be a good ROI? Would 50% be a good ROI? 100%, would that be a good ROI? Or 1,000%, would that be a good ROI? Okay, people, let's see those fingers doing the walking. Thank you very much. We've got about 10 seconds. Okay, so how are we going? All right, yep, we've got some response coming through. Thanks a lot. Yep, keep pushing those buttons. Going to be closing the thing for some results now. Yep, I can see that the things are still moving. 3, 2, 1, closing it down now. Here are the results. And look at that. Over half of you think that 50% would be a good return on investment. Well, Kate, what's the reality?
Well, I think this is a really important question to be asking. More and more organisations are looking really closely at the ROI on investments across their organisation, and learning and development and organisational performance are no different. So this is another way in which TakeOn is really a game changer. It delivers amazing results. Analysis completed by TakeOn on some of the larger interventions indicates that the ROI for those organisations can be in excess of 500 to 1,000% in the first year, and this includes the cost of employee time to implement and sustain the program. But it's not just about the numbers. At Blacksmith, one of the most important signs for us that TakeOn is truly a game changer is that the leaders who are participating in the program truly feel the difference. And on the screen now in front of you, you will see part of a quote from one of the participants in one of our client companies. But I'll read out the whole one because I think it's valuable. So I'm currently sitting at my desk reflecting on the fact that I feel I have developed more as a leader in the last 4 weeks than my entire career previously. I don't think I was bad at my job before. I just think I'm operating so much more effectively now and have the confidence that I can not only operate this way in the future, but I have the potential to be even better. You know, this is the stuff that really makes work meaningful for us.
Yeah, and also, Kate, it's really enabling from a CEO point of view. It's making a big difference at that level. For example, a CEO of a company in the UK who's overseen a huge improvement in business performance, where they've generated more profit in the last 2 years than the 13 previous years combined, said this. When he was asked at a seminar what were the key factors in leading such a great turnaround in performance, his answer was simple. We released the handbrake. And he went on to say, engagement is what releases the handbrake. Simply put, with TakeOn, we've encouraged people to make decisions that they are best placed to make and develop the business in line with their expertise and desire. So really strong theme coming through in terms of it does help drive performance, both from building capability of leaders and the bottom line of the organisation. So when do you use it? Well, let's start by looking very quickly at some of the key features. And there's 4 that I want to point out here. The first is it's configurable. You see, you can put together a program of activity that is targeted at specific needs of the organisation. You don't have to build the content. You simply configure a program by selecting from the themes and the resources available. Secondly, you can embed this into the existing routines and rhythm of the organisation. For example, the regular team meetings or company events. So for the most part, you are not having to take people away from their jobs or out of the business. Thirdly, it promotes immediate application of the learning, as Kate's already mentioned, because the development and change is contextualized to what the business needs to address at that particular point in time. And finally, it's about building or creating a culture of incremental changes. Each small in isolation, but when you add them all up, they are substantial. So here's a selection of the types of business challenges that TakeOn has been used to support. Customer experience, productivity, collaboration, undertaking major change, lifting engagement, or implementing strategy, deploying vision, values, and brands. So as well as developing leaders, it really is supporting the organisation to implement their key strategies. And that's because it gets everyone involved in making the strategy happen. Where does it work? Well, it's worked across many industries, from financial services to utilities, retail, FMCG, local government, the list goes on. But it seems to be especially well suited to mid to large service organisations, anything up from a few hundred people, and those where you have a high ratio of first and second level leaders. Regardless of where it's being deployed and for what purpose, the central theme remains the same, and that is your managers own it, they lead it, and they're building their leadership skills at the same time as driving change and improving performance. So let's take a bit more of a look at the nuts and bolts of the detail of how TakeOn works. Do you want to take us through that, Kate?
Sure thing, Paul. So TakeOn is made up of 2 core streams, the first of which is Management Matters. So Management Matters is a program that incrementally develops transformation leadership skills through leader-led conversations. TakeON Management Matters develops these skills through conversations in a business context. So we're talking short workshops, no more than 3 to 4 hours, focused around a specific theme. Typically, you'd look to do maybe 2 themes per quarter, and in each of those workshops, there would be leader-led conversations amongst peer groups of between 10 to 15 people. Now, these leader-led conversations are another part of this game-changing approach. It leverages the organisational knowledge and leadership experience already present to build collective strength. Within Management Matters, themes are explained in the context of current business issues, and the content's relevant, so participants can apply the learning immediately. Each of the theme workshops that I've mentioned has 4 key components. The first is around engaging. We want to engage people, identify the relevant business applications for the theme, get them sharing their past experiences. Next is the empower piece, which is where we give people new tools, frameworks and models to build capability. Following on from that, we get into excite. Now this is where we really get in amongst how to apply the learning to their current challenges. And very importantly, insight to action. This is where the group themselves will set their tasks about what they're going to commit to doing, how they're going to work with their buddy, who's their partner in learning out in the business, how they're going to engage with their manager, and what they're going to take back to their teams. The second TakeON core stream is Business Matters. So Business Matters is about creating continuous improvement discussions led by these managers with their teams that are built into your regular meeting routines. Business Matters provides tools for leaders to have structured team conversations that lead to improved performance. These conversations deliver the incremental changes that Paul was talking about in behaviour and practice. This is where those 7,000 ideas in 12 months came from. These structured conversations are simply 4 30-minute leader-led sessions that focus on a specific business theme. But I think maybe the best way to really explain it is with a real-world example. So, Paul, maybe you can pull one out of your bag of tricks and experience.
Let me do that, Kate. And I'm going to go back to that banking example where I talked about the 7,000 changes, because this is the mechanism by which most of those 7,000 changes were actually implemented into the organisation. So as Kate said, there are 4 conversations. So imagine this. The organisation has chosen to focus their key challenge around improving the customer experience. And as part of that program of activity, one of the themes that the executive has chosen for the organisation to use is valuing customer time. So each team in the organisation, about 300 of them across all the branches and all the other head office functions and the like, are working on this theme at the same time. And they're looking at it from their viewpoint in terms of where they sit in the organisation. I've got a particular example here which came out from one of the branches, one of the bank branches, retail branches of the bank when they were working on this theme. They went through the first conversation and talking about, well, what would good look like if we were really valuing customer time? When they came back for the second week, they'd been asked to look at it and observe what's currently happening within the branch environment. And a couple of people noticed that at a particular time of the day, the queues were really, really long at the customer services desk. And so in the next discussion, they investigated what was going on there. And they came up with the view that a lot of the customers were actually in the wrong queue. When they analysed it, a lot of the people waiting there were actually waiting for Business Bank, which happened to be upstairs. So that was the insight. The next stage, the next discussion is, okay, what ideas can we put on the table in terms of helping to resolve this issue? The answer was a fairly obvious one that someone put forward, but a really good one. And that was, why don't we put up a better sign so that people are directed to the right place? So the next stage is to trial that action, which they did for a couple of weeks. And lo and behold, they saw that the queue levels went down, the wait time for customers was less, and the productivity was higher. So a final conversation around that is reviewing the impact of that idea and making a decision about whether to retain it or not. And of course it was implemented permanently. So that gives you a real flavour for the types of process and why this is really effective at all levels of the organisation. So putting together Business Matters and Management Matters, what it allows you to do is configure a series of short workshops around Management Matters and those structured team conversations, Business Matters, focused on a business challenge. Let's look at the process in a little bit more detail. And I'll let Kate take you through the step-by-step process that we use.
So implementing TakeOn is really nice and easy. The first step is for us to get together and set up for success within your context. So that's looking at who's involved, what themes, rhythm of program, is the way that everything is languaged within the tools put together in a way that fits for your organisation. We then run some simple diagnostics to understand where we're starting from with the leaders participating and what shifts you'd like to see over time. If you already have data that you want to use for that purpose, we can work with whatever you have. Next is the foundation buildings part, which includes a workshop for participating leaders and active engagement with senior leaders and the very, very important people, the participants' one-up managers. From there, we get into the rollout of theme workshops. These are the ones that we've worked with you to select to best suit your business and leadership development needs. As I mentioned earlier, TakeOn has a big focus on applied learning, and out the back of each workshop, leaders have to put insight into action back in the organisation. Then to make sure the program's on track, there are regular reviews built into the program for leaders to reflect on what's changed for them, the difference it's making, and how they can become even better. Across the top of the whole TakeOn program sits the Internet. Now this is the digital platform that Paul mentioned at the very beginning of the webinar. The Internet provides continual online support, coaching and collaboration, and it's the place where all leaders go to access the tools and resources they need throughout. So what happens once you decide you want to get started? Well, we recognise that although there are common business challenges across all organisations, every organisation is unique. So TakeOn is always tailored to your requirements. We start where you are and focus the program on themes that address your most pressing issues. The initial program may run for 6 to 12 months and include somewhere between 4 to 8 themes. And remembering there is flexibility throughout the program to change the focus if your business needs change and to choose different themes that will address those successfully. So how do we choose your themes? Well, your TakeOn partner will sit down with you and work to understand your organisation and configure a combination of topics that will get results for you. You can see here on the slide in front of you now that there is a selection of themes that were chosen to support an organisation going through change. But there are currently over 40 different themes, so a program can be configured to meet pretty much every organisational situation. Once your themes are sorted, your partner will work with you to lead the setup with senior sponsors. That's all about getting your objectives set, working out what you want to measure, getting through all the logistics that come with setting up a program like this, and then running the foundation workshop with your managers. TakeOn partner will then facilitate the first couple of theme workshops, but will then move into a support role, providing ongoing coaching and advice throughout the balance of the program. And this is a really important feature of the program and another way in which TakeOn is a game changer. We want the program to be sustainable over time with light support rather than dependency and failure if the partner steps away. And if you're a large organisation, there is also a front-runner approach. So that's essentially train the trainer so that we get internal leaders taking the role of the TakeOn partner. This approach has been hugely successful and demonstrates once again the power of a truly leader-led approach. At the end of the day, as Paul said earlier, you own it, you lead it. You should be largely self-sufficient by the end of the initial program, and from there you can continue to access the system and apply it as part of business as usual. A key part of the ongoing sustainability of TakeOn is the Internet, which I mentioned earlier. Now, the Internet is a digital platform that provides all the tools, resources, support, coaching, and opportunities for collaboration that your leaders need to really make the most of the opportunity. The power of a community of leaders committed to building better business is another part of the unique value of TakeOn.
Hey people, it's Julian again, so it must be time for another poll. All right, so according to Professor Gary Hamill from London Business School, what percentage of future knowledge will individual companies actually need to learn from outside their own industry? Do you think it's likely to be 10%? Is it going to be 25%? 65% perhaps? Or as much as 80%? Okay, please let your fingers do the walking and let's see what kind of results we're going to get. 10 seconds from now, give it some thought, put your entry in. Yep, we're starting to see some stuff going on. Oh, yep, definitely. Okay, listen, people, I'm going to close it down now. 3, 2, 1, go. So over half of you, 54% of you, think it's likely to be about 65%. So, guys, what's the actual truth?
Well, I think the figure that Gary Hamill actually used, Julian, was 80%, but I'm not sure that there was any really robust empirical evidence behind that figure. It was more of a statement of vision and direction for organisations, and the idea that we need to look beyond our own organisation to others, but in particular across other sectors. And this is one of the features that the ONSNet is really enabling, because we have hundreds of people coming together who are working on similar types of challenges, but in a different context. Some are in the not-for-profit sector, some of them are in the profit sector, different industries and the like. But they're able to join up and share and generate their experience, combine their experience to find useful insights and opportunities for each other. So let's just have a very quick look at the ONSNet. We sort of describe the ONSNet as like it's a private hotel in that you need a key to get in the front door, but once you're in the front door, then you have access to different areas. So each company, for example, has its own private group space. What we're showing you here is a dummy group space for Acme Company. But each company will have its own tailored space, and in fact some companies have multiple spaces. They have a whole floor, maybe 15 or 20 different rooms in the hotel. We then open up the access to specific content that that group needs at a particular time. So we're making it very easy for people to access the right stuff at the right time. And here's an example of the information and the content contained within the theme of leading people. All of the resources that they'll need and a whole lot of background information which is also useful to them. Elsewhere in the hotel there are public areas. Just like a normal hotel, there's restaurants and cafes and those sorts of things. And likewise on the ONSNet we have places that people can go to in general. There's a general resource centre, for example, where there is a growing body of ever-increasing library of tools, articles and discussions. We have places that people can actually collaborate and talk with each other. And here's an example of a thread that's been started by a guy called Sonny Brokenshire here at New Zealand Post in this country. And he simply asked the question, what's your favourite icebreaker activity? And very quickly a range of responses have started to form from people from other countries and other companies and across different sectors. So it's a very powerful way of tapping into the collective knowledge of a community of people who are driven by a common purpose and common focus, which is about building better organisations. So we're just about at the end. Just a couple of pointers about how the investment model works. Essentially, 3 things. You purchase TakeON licenses for managers that you want to be involved. Secondly, you select the TakeON theme toolkits that you want to use in the program within the organisation, and you can build that over time. And thirdly, you engage your local TakeON partner to undertake the implementation and provide the ongoing support. In summary, there's a very low risk option. You can trial it through a short series program into a specific area of your business, one department or one division, see how it goes, and a number of organisations are doing this and then rolling it out elsewhere into the organisation. It's also pretty low cost, to be fair. Once that initial program has been up and going and been implemented, the ongoing cost, more or less as a rule of thumb, equates to about 1 to 2% of a manager's salary and is also requiring about 1 to 2% of their time over the duration of the utilisation. And finally, it's a value equation. It is high value. We know it works. It delivers very good results, both in developing leaders and in terms of making a tangible impact on organisational challenges. And it keeps working because it's sustainable. Very quickly, it can just simply become part of what you do as an organisation. It allows for continuous and incremental growth and development and change. And finally, it allows you to really focus the organisation on what matters most at that point in time. It's a platform to embed your strategy, whatever that is, at any point of your organisational journey. So that's the key points that we want to make today. We're going to open things up to a little bit of questions, but I'll hand back to Julian just to take us through the next stage.
Okay, guys, as Paul said, we'd like you to start typing in your questions now if you've got them. But listen, you can learn more at takeon.biz. And to be honest with you, there's some great webinars there on topics like engagement, productivity, change, and you can learn more there. Or we'd love it if you could join our LinkedIn group. And there's the address down there below. I know it's a little bit complicated, but that's LinkedIn for you. Thanks to Paul. Thanks to Kate. Your insights were great. And thanks also to all of you for listening. So what happens next? Well, you'll each receive an email in the next few days with a link to the recording of this session and to a great tool, which is basically a way of introducing TakeOn into your organization. We'd love you to share this with colleagues, friends, anyone else who you know who might benefit from it. We're going to stay online now to answer some questions. If you do need to leave the session, please don't forget to complete the survey because your feedback is really valuable to us. Right, okay, so let's have a look at a question. We've got one that came through earlier today, or earlier in this session particularly, from Marty Pritchard. Marty says, how does it work for non-profits? The language is wrong for NFPs. Can it be modified? Paul, I'm going to send this one to you.
Yep. Well, the good news, Marty, is that not-for-profits are using the take-on approach, and I really take your point, and maybe it's some of the language we're using in our conversation. I guess you're picking up on the business word quite a bit. It's really good for not-for-profits, and one of the key reasons it is great for not-for-profits is it really focuses people more on the purpose of the organisation rather than the financial goals. So it's building that real connection towards what is the value that we create for others. In terms of the language, anything is possible. And we encourage the organisations that are using it to switch in and switch out, words and pieces of language which really suits it to their organisation. And, over time we're trying to make that easier and easier for them to do. So I'm really confident that it does work in a not-for-profit environment. And in fact, we can put you in touch with one or two who are currently using it.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Kate, here's a question from you, from Carol Howard. Listen, will people really use the internet?
Yeah, look, Carol, that is a question that we often get asked. Social business tools are relatively new for many organisations, but they are the way the world is going. And really using the internet is no more complex than using Facebook, if people are familiar with that, in their private world, or LinkedIn in terms of a professional network. Once people get in and really experience the value, then they're hooked pretty much. There's great support for them right at the beginning with a personalised onboarding call so they can find their way to the most valuable and important information for them. And the support and encouragement of the community, both within their own organisation and group, but the wider value and power of leaders all over the world who are now getting involved and want to support each other to be more amazing. It doesn't take long for people to see the value in just spending 5-10 minutes a day in there having a look around and asking questions.
Right. Okay. People, we're up. Time's up. We've used up our half hour. Listen, if you've got any extra questions, by all means, feel free to push them through to us. Both Paul and Kate are more than happy to communicate with you on an individual basis. But otherwise, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from them.
Thanks, team.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye-bye.